Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today, we are covering Sirach chapters 27 through 30.
Did I mention that it was supposed to be synchronous?
I think I stuttered.
Yeah, you stuttered, and then that made me stutter.
That's great.
It's like if I tripped and then like my back foot came up and hit you in the foot.
Yeah.
And then
I tripped.
Yeah.
Man.
You're tripping, man.
We're both tripping.
I guess.
But you know what isn't tripping? Ben Sirach.
I'm not sure about that. Well, you know what? Ecclesiastes, Colette, is definitely tripping.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was getting stoned all over Jerusalem.
Coming to these revelations, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, it's post-Greek influence, right? And the Greeks definitely had hallucinogenics.
They did, yes.
So I can only assume that part of his revelry that he talks about is using hallucinogenics.
Yeah, totally. Yep, got high. That's exactly what happened.
Yep. But we're not talking about Colette today. We're talking about Ben Sirach.
Yeah, we're talking about Ben Sirach. Back on this.
Yes, I have the Anchor Bible version, new translation with notes by Patrick W. Skehan and introduction and commentary by Alexander A. Delela.
I have The Wisdom of Ben Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus from W.O.E. Osterley, a very old and not really that great of a translation, but that's okay.
We also have Eerdman's commentary on the Bible, which I see you have open this time.
Yes, I did. And we also have the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary.
Yep, and we also have a ton of other books that aren't going to really be useful today unless we want to cross-reference something.
I guess we'll see what happens, huh?
Yep. Well, anyways, let's hop into it unless there's something that you want to say first.
No, there's not really any introductory thing on this.
All right. Well, then let's do this. Hazards to integrity and friendship. This started with the last couple verses of chapter 26 in this section.
Yep.
And now we're starting with chapter 27. For the sake of profit, many sin, and the struggle for wealth blinds the eyes. Like a peg driven between fitted stones, between buying and selling, sin is wedged in.
So
he sounds like a communist.
I mean, there's you could definitely pull out some communist-like stuff out of here. There's no question about that. But he definitely recognizes the greedy kind of capital-driven merchants out there.
Yes, they definitely exist.
Yes, they do.
All right. Unless one holds fast to the fear of the Lord, with sudden swiftness one's house will be thrown down. I'm not sure about that. When a sieve is shaken, the husks appear. So do a person's faults when he speaks. As the test of the potter's work is in the furnace, so in his conversation is the test of a person. The fruit of a tree shows the care it has had. So too does a person's speech show the bent of his mind. Praise no one before he speaks, for it is then that people are tested.
Yeah, so out of the analogies that we got from 4 through 6, the second comparison is more apt. Just as a kiln tests a potter's vessels, bringing imperfections into the open, so also conversation reveals faulty logic.
Right, because if you put a poorly made pot into a kiln, it will crack.
Yeah.
And bubble up, and there will be problems.
Yeah, but you know what? If you have a good kiln and a good pot, I guess, a good piece of pottery, it'll be okay.
It looks here...
It'll be quality, top notch.
Mm-hmm. It looks here like there's a setup and then a conclusion in like a more logical way.
Yeah.
Where it gives several examples, and then it comes to the conclusion to praise no one before they speak. So that's interesting. If you strive after righteousness, you will attain it, and put it on like a splendid robe. I think that Saul strived after righteousness.
You could say that he tried, but maybe he was misguided, perhaps. So he wasn't really striving after righteousness. He was just striving after the idea of righteousness.
Oh, great. Not righteousness, but righteousness.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I have brought something with me just because I wanted to drink it. This is Baikal. If anyone knows a bit about Russian history, maybe they know about Baikal.
We are not sponsored by
Russian
by
Baikal
soda company.
Not sponsored by anybody.
But this is basically Russia's competitor to Coca-Cola.
Does it taste anything like Coca-Cola?
It's a little less sweet.
A little less sweet. And here, there's like a spectrum now.
It's less syrupy, I should say.
Yeah. There's like that, then Coke, then Pepsi. They made...
See, I always thought Pepsi was more bitter. To me, it tasted more bitter.
Well, they made new Coke just to sweeten it in order to compete with Pepsi.
No, I guess. Well.
Anyway, birds nest with their own kind, and fidelity comes to those who live by it. Wow, Lawrence.
Yeah. Birds dwell with their kind, and truth returneth unto them that practice it.
I gotta see if there's a comment in here on there. That's
Yeah, so there is there actually isn't anything on that. There is, however, once we get through verse 15, there should be some commentary relating those two sections.
Okay. In verse 9, Ben Sira gives a variant form of our English proverb, birds of a feather flock together. So as far back as George Wither abuses 1613. An aphorism made more memorable by the alliteration between feather and flock and the rhyme between feather and together. See also 1315 for a similar saying. As like associates with like, so fidelity comes to those who live by it. Okay, that's all they say about that.
All right, then.
That's pretty racist. As a lion crouches in wait for prey, so does sin for evildoers. That was in Proverbs, too, where they were talking about these sinful people who just sit and wait to assault people.
Yeah. It's exactly like that.
Was this a major problem in Israel?
Well, maybe the wisdom teachers were really just... This is their way of exaggerating, I guess. It's just people who want to do evil things all the time. So their entire life, they're just waiting to do something evil.
You see, it might not be that, there are all that many of them, but they don't have any real way of making sure that they can get caught. And if they do get caught, they don't get killed or something, usually. There's no proof. And they just get let go again.
Yeah.
So what a great group of bandits. They just sell everything they grab and get drunk usually. See that?
And so maybe this one makes more sense here. Yes, well, you are definitely right that it does take from the imagery that we got from Proverbs. It is a little bit different. It's that, so the lion waiteth for its prey, so sins for them that work iniquity. So if you're doing bad stuff, you have the divine kind of judgment upon you.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is taking the same imagery, it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, it flips it a little bit. Ever wise are the discourses of the just, but the fool is inconstant as the moon, obviously because the moon changes phases, unlike the sun, arguably. Limit the time you spend among fools, but frequent the company of the thoughtful. The conversation of the wicked is offensive, Their laughter is wanton guilt. Their oath-filled talk makes the hairs stand on end. Their brawls make one stop one's ears. Wrangling among the haughty ends in bloodshed, their cursing is painful to hear. So they not only are they bad at speaking and also speak falsities.
Really,
but
it's anything they do is just like,
terrible.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that they're doing something isn't being righteous.
They were a real problem. That's what I was saying. Not much could be done about them, honestly.
No, but the thing is, I don't think he's talking about just, like just people who literally do that kind of thing. But because he's lumping them all together
Yeah, that
as
is a bit
just
much.
any of the wicked.
Well, I mean, he is kind of describing a bandit camp to me. You know, they brawl
in
with
the
each
one
other.
verse?
They take evil oaths. This past few things, they share bloodshed together, stuff like that. That's a bandit group to me, at least.
Well, they're at least
describing that.
They're at least not people that you would want to hang out
Well,
with.
definitely, yeah.
Sketchy folks.
Yes. Whoever betrays a secret destroys confidence. He will never find an intimate friend. Cherish your friend. Keep faith with him. But if you betray his secret, follow him not. For as one might kill another, you have killed your neighbor's friendship. Like a bird released from the hand, you have let your friend go, and you cannot recapture him. I would imagine that within the Talmudic legal system, which requires multiple people to attest that they saw something happen, or that they have knowledge of something happening,
Yeah.
that this would be especially important, at least in Sirach's time, where he's saying you can't sell out your friends. So, I mean, people generally don't keep secrets if it's like a harmless.
Yeah.
thing.
They have no reason to keep it.
Yeah. Follow him not, for he is far away. He has escaped like a gazelle from the snare. A wound can be bound up and railing speech forgiven, but whoever betrays secrets does hopeless damage.
So, mine is a little bit different here. For a wound may be bound up, and for slander there is reconciliation. But he that revealeth secrets has no hope. So a little bit different. But then the commentary, at least in the New Interpreter's Bible. So Ben-Sira stresses the ultimate cost of revealing secrets about an intimate friend. Nobody will ever trust you again. And, yeah.
Yeah. Whoever has shifty eyes plots mischief. Whoever knows him will give him a wide berth. B-E-R-T-H, not B-I-R-T-H.
Okay.
In your presence, he uses honeyed talk and admires your every word, but later he changes his tune and twists your words to your ruin.
Okay, so he uses your words against you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's, nice to you in front of your face, and then he goes behind your back, and then I guess he uses your words against you. I don't know.
Yeah, these two-faced people.
Yeah.
Snakes, really. We call them snakes.
Although, so here is, I don't think we actually, oh yeah. So for verse 22 here, he that winketh with his eye planneth evil things. And that's a little bit different from the translation you had.
Right. This is like a shifty eye.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like,
yeah, and that's more, the shifty eyes thing is more what we use when we, talk about those kinds of people, I guess.
And as you can see, our background has a guy with
shifty eyes.
I think lasers coming out of his eyes. He's got 4 lasers per eye. Very powerful person.
Yeah, that's just what happened in the ancient world. People shot lasers out of their eyes.
Well, in that verse, whoever knows him will give him a wide berth.
Okay, well, before you get to that one, I do have a little bit of commentary on the winking thing. Ben Sira shares earlier sages' disdain for the practice of winking, viewing it as malicious. And we can cross-reference Proverbs 6:13 and 10:10.
Whoever has shifty eyes is literally whoever winks with his eyes, an expression similar to the Septuagint of Proverbs 6:13. He winks with his eye, in Proverbs 10:10. Whoever winks with his eyes. Winking was considered a sign of duplicity. See Proverbs 16:30 and Psalm 35:19. For such a person plots mischief. But about the second part of this verse, whoever knows him will give him a wide berth. In most Greek manuscripts, this reads, and no one can ward him off. So,
What verse was that?
verse 22.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and no man will remove him from it.
Yep. Anyways, in your presence he uses honeyed talk, admires your every word. Later he changes his tune and twists your words to your ruin. There is nothing that I hate so much, and the Lord hates him as well. As a stone falls back on the head of one who throws it up, so a blow struck in treachery injures more than one. As the one who digs a pit falls into it, and whoever lays a snare is caught by it, whoever does harm will be involved in it without knowing whence it came upon him. Mockery and abuse will befall the proud, and vengeance lies in wait for them like a lion.
Back to the lion imagery.
Yeah. Also still lying in wait. Traps and snares seize those who delight in them, and pain will consume them before they die. Wrath and anger are loathsome things, which the sinful person has for his own. That's strange, because wrath and anger are apparently terrible, but both Sirach and the Lord hate these people.
Yeah. And, they seem pretty wrathful and pretty angry about it.
Yeah. They're talking about them dying in misery and pain.
Yeah. So let's do some commentary. So for the verses from 25 through 29 here, it actually breaks off. So 30, verse 30, is apparently the start of a new section in mine. And it's just labeled forgiveness. But yeah, that's the verse with the wrath and anger thing. Although on verses 25 through 29, so those verses cite traditional proverbs that assert a relationship between cause and effect, here focusing on the dire consequences of particular actions. Throwing a rock straight up, cross-reference Proverbs 26:27. Digging a pit, that's also 26:27. And also Ecclesiastes. And setting a trap, reference to Psalms 9:15 through 16. Such wishful thinking characterizes much of wisdom literature, largely because the sages believed that God guaranteed justice in society. And you know how many times we have seen that? So many times. And so, so in Proverbs, the author tried to kind of, come to terms with the fact that there's not always justice, but he really didn't try too hard. Really got nowhere. And while Ben Sira has tried harder, he still has gotten nowhere. And furthermore, so verses 25 through 26, in verses 25 through 26, there are excellent illustrations of how evil will roll back upon its perpetrators. And these phrases probably come from a rich stock of proverbs, but are very aptly chosen. And yeah, I mean, we've heard that kind of stuff a million times.
All right. So, this next section is on forgiveness, as you noted.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And I think it is also the next chapter.
It is the next chapter.
Yeah.
Before you get into it, apparently there's some Christian elements in it, but while they appear Christian to us in our modern day. There's all sorts of Jewish literature that's listed and abbreviated poorly, so I can't say the full
And it's important to
things.
remember that from all the books that aren't really considered canonical,
Mhm.
at least, in Christian canon, Ben Sira was probably the most influential one. So many ideas were taken. I'm pretty sure we're pretty sure that there are quotes. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but Ben Sira has been quoted in the New Testament and plenty of the church fathers. A lot of influence comes from Ben Sira. It was one of the most influential works out there. So it's not a surprise that we would see things that are, kind of tending towards Christian ideas.
Mm-hmm. Well, one element that we're going to have pop up, at least in this first stanza that we get into, I think it's in the first, it's in the first stanza, is like a theme almost like the love your neighbor as yourself, which many Christians will attribute to Jesus, of course, but which occurred in Leviticus 19:18. So there may be some dialogue here between Sirach's understanding of biblical texts.
Yeah.
Right.
So here you go.
Yep.
Here's this commentary, and here's this commentary, and I'm going to read from an outdated translation. How about that?
Wonderful.
All right, let's see how much we fully grasp from this translation that's about 100 years old. Anyways, chapter 28. He that taketh vengeance shall find vengeance from the Lord, and his sins he will indeed keep in memory. So the thing about if you take vengeance, you will get vengeance from the Lord. That kind of, bounces off the whole Cain and Abel thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Cain killed Abel, God, pretty much, he gave him the mark of Cain, right? Which is right here, as you can obviously see. And when that happened, anyone who killed Cain, vengeance would be brought upon him sevenfold. Now, I think sevenfold is more of like, just to mean completely.
Yeah. It's an
fullness.
expression.
Yeah.
There's a lot of numerical expressions in Hebrew. It's not just a Jewish thing, though. Like, I know that in the Tibetan tradition, they use 100,000 or 100 million sometimes to just mean a lot.
Okay. Oh, kind of like how we say a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not literally 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Forgive any injury done thee by thy neighbor, and then when thou prayest, thy sins will be forgiven. One man cherisheth wrath against another, and doth he seek healing from the Lord? Upon a man like himself he hath no mercy, and for his own sins doth he make supplication? He being flesh nourisheth wrath. Who will make atonement for his sins?
So, Sirach 28, 2-5 insists that anyone who desires forgiveness from the Lord must first exercise that compassion towards human enemies. See also Matthew 6:12, 18:32-35, Mark 11:5, Luke 21:4. This sentiment also appears in Jewish literature generally. For example, God forgives whoever forgives his or her neighbor, so long as we are merciful. God is merciful to us. But if we're not merciful to others, God is not merciful to us. Whoever has pity on man, to him will God be merciful. Only the one who is merciful with mankind may expect mercy from heaven. So that's in a lot of Jewish literature. Eerdmans comments on this verses 2-5 requires anyone desiring Lord's forgiveness to first show that forgiveness to human enemies. Sentiment familiar to the New Testament, but occurring generally in Jewish literature. Tell me when you get to the beginning of verse 8.
Okay. Remember thy last end, and cease from enmity. Remember corruption and death, and abide in the commandments. Remember the commandments, and be not wrath with thy neighbor. And remember the covenant of the Most High, and overlook ignorance.
All right.
So, yeah, that was the end of 7. So,
Yeah. So he concludes his remarks on this neighborliness with a reference to the 10 Commandments in verses 6 through 7, which we're all familiar with.
speaking of commandments, worship Baal.
Yeah.
He's right here.
If you donate to Baal using the
Using
YouTube
your
donations,
commandments.
you will be contributing to a $666 donation drive, at the end of which we'll be taking on Scientology by getting an e-meter and measuring our thetans.
There's that.
But this next section, 28 through 11, warns about letting sharp words escalate into blows. It quotes Proverbs on wood being used in a fire, which is in Proverbs 26:20. The citation leads to a similar one in 28:12, which observes that at a certain point when a coal is glowing, one can blow on it to start a fire. So we're getting some fire-based imagery as we go into this next section.
Keep far from strife, and thou wilt diminish thy sins. For a passionate man kindleth strife. Kindleth, of course.
Yes.
And a sinful man troubleth friends, and casteth, what the fuck is this word? Calumny?
Which what verse is that?
9.
Verse 9.
What?
Verse 9 commits the sin of disrupting friendship and sows discord among those at peace.
Discord. Okay, we'll go with discord because I've never heard that word before.
Calamity?
No. Calumny.
Well, maybe.
It's just an archaic form of
maybe
calamity or something.
Something like that.
And casteth discord in the midst of the peaceful. That's way better.
Oh, calmity.
Nope.
No?
Just look at the word, Ruben.
Here you go, man.
What the hell does that mean?
Yep.
Yeah, see what he was saying? There you go.
The making of false and defamatory statements about someone in order to damage their reputation.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
We would have never guessed. That's wonderful.
According to its fuel, so doth a fire burn, and according to the vehemence of a strife, so doth it increase. And according to the strength of a man, so is his wrath, and according to his wealth, so doth he increase his wrath. Strife begun in haste kindleth a fire. Back to the whole strife and kindle thing from verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
And a hasty quarrel leadeth to bloodshed. If thou blow upon a spark, it kindleth. And if thou spit on it, it is quenched. And both come forth from thy mouth. Okay, so make the right choice. Like, you have the ability to either keep this fire, to pretty much ignite this fire, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's also, in this translation, yet both you do with your mouth. So it's like an accusation.
Well, yeah, I guess it could be. Well, unless, like, if I say you spit and blow from your mouth, like, that would make sense. And shut up, Chris.
Right, but figuratively, you're saying that you functionally have the ability to both stop quarrels and to excite quarrels.
Yeah.
And at least in this statement, yet both you do with your mouth, it seems like an accusation that you have poor judgment.
I think that's more about the word yet then. Yeah. But that's whatever. Let's continue, shall we? Unless you had more commentary on that.
No,
Okay. And this section is labeled the evil tongue.
I will have commentary on that once you get to the end of verse 16. I'll go into it.
Okay, and of course we've seen like this whole evil tongue thing before with people who gossip, basically. Curse the whisperer, that's the gossiper, and the double-tongued, for he hath destroyed many that were at peace. The third tongue hath shaken many, and hath dispersed them from nation to nation. Even strong cities hath it destroyed, and overturned the houses of the great. So, do you have anything about this third tongue?
Yeah, we heard things about double-tongued people before,
Yeah.
and we had commentary on that.
Yeah. Was that the end of verse 16?
No, that was the end of verse 14. I'll get to the end.
Three-tongued people, yeah.
I'll get to
Get to the end of 16 and I'll go into it.
Okay. The third tongue hath cast out brave women and deprived them of their labors. He that giveth heed thereunto shall not find rest, neither shall he dwell in quietude.
All right. So in verse 14.
Quietude.
Yeah.
I like it.
The Greek Codex Alexandrinus has third tongue, a technical expression in rabbinic literature for slander that, according to Sirach 15b, slays three people: the slanderer, the slandered, and the person who believed the slander.
See?
There's
that
a bit
implicates three people. I get it.
Yeah, there's a bit more on here. The last two poems of this section deal with evils of the tongue. The first, 12 through 16, deplores double-tongued people, and the third tongue, sometimes translated meddlesome tongue. Regarding the vivid images and the point of 28:12, compare 5:13, Proverbs 15:1. Ben Sirach calls down a curse on the gossiper, literally whisperer, and the double-tongued. For as the Greek has it, literally, they destroy many who were at peace. The third tongue is an expression that occurs in rabbinical literature. It means the tongue of the slanderer. So Box Osterley, who wrote CPEG Arakin 15b, the third tongue kills three. So Osterley knew about it.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Anyways, let's continue. Verse 17.
Yep.
The stroke of a whip maketh a mark, but the stroke of a tongue breaketh bones. So it's just way worse.
Mm-hmm.
Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not so many as have fallen by the tongue. So the tongue can ruin, reputations.
And not only that, but as I mentioned earlier, within the Talmudic legal system, if you make a claim about someone, that can literally kill them.
Yeah. Happy is the man that is sheltered therefrom, that hath not passed through the wrath thereof, that hath not drawn the yoke thereof, and that hath not been bound with its bands.
Was that verse 20?
That was verse 19.
Okay, read verse 20.
For its yoke is a yoke of iron, and its bands are bands of brass.
So, Ben Sira uses the images of yoke and chains also with regard to personified wisdom in 6:24 through 25, 29 through 30. The yoke of iron is an allusion to Jeremiah 28:13 through 14, where it signifies the oppressive service the people will endure under Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. The person who is victimized by another's tongue may be accurately described as bearing a yoke of iron and chains of bronze.
The death thereof is an evil death, and Hades is more profitable than it. Of course, Sheol. But it hath no power over the godly. They shall not be burned in her flame. They that forsake the Lord shall fall into it quick, and she shall burn them and not be quenched. As a lion she be sent upon them, and as a leopard shall she destroy them. Look that thou hedge thy possession about with thorns, and bind up thy silver and gold, and make a balance and weight for thy words, and for thy mouth make a door and a bar. I'm guessing the bar is like a thing to weigh it up against.
And that's verse...
That was verse 25.
25. Okay. They split up. It goes 23, 24a, 25b, 24b, 25a.
Yeah, it says here the order of the clauses in verses 24 and 25 is more logical in the Syriac. And then he notes exactly what you just read.
Yeah, it says in most Greek manuscripts, these four cola appears 24a, 25b, 24b, 25a. Ziegler has reestablished the normal sequence with Syriac, Latin, and some Greek evidence. But it reads here, as you hedge round your vineyard with thorns, set barred doors over your mouth. As you seal up your silver and gold, so balance and weigh your words. So a barred door, I assume, would be like a lock.
Or a bar literally placed in front of the door to prevent it from being opened. That's a barred door.
It says here,
Yeah, that makes
as
sense.
a person places a hedge of thorns around a vineyard to keep wild animals from overrunning and destroying it, so he should set barred doors over his mouth. For the custom of binding up or sealing silver and gold, see 2 Kings 5:23 and Tobit 9:5. Though Ben Sira uses a mixed metaphor in 28:24b, 25a, he nonetheless makes a valid point. Just as a person uses great care in sealing up silver and gold, so should he be equally careful in balancing and weighing his words.
Take heed that thou slip not thereby, lest thou fall before him that ensnareth. Of course, you know, those damn fools. And remember the folly, the personification of folly?
Yep.
She ensnares.
No,
Was
there's a
that-
Don't fall for it.
Was that your verse 26?
Yeah.
This is very similar to how many times they say snare in Proverbs, but I think it's starting to top it.
Yeah, it's different here. Take care not to slip by your tongue and fall victim to your foe waiting in ambush.
Oh, wow. That is in fact different. You're right.
It doesn't...
But yeah, that would make sense with the foe waiting in ambush, considering all the imagery we got before.
Literally fall before him who lies in wait, i.e. an enemy will rejoice over the slip of the tongue and use it against one. Latin adds, and your case will become incurable, leading to death.
Anyways, that's the end of chapter 28.
If you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, share, comment, subscribe, buy from our Teespring, support us on Patreon, make a little altar, and worship us.
Not a Robert altar, a little altar.
Yeah. I hope Robert Alter has a kid who he calls Little
altar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alter Jr.
Loans, alms, and surety.
Yes, we are hopping into chapter 29.
Yep. Chapter 29. He does a kindness who lends to his neighbor, and he fulfills the precepts who holds out a helping hand. Lend to your neighbor in his hour of need. Pay back your neighbor when a loan falls due. Keep your promise. Be honest with them, and you will always come by what you need.
So before we continue with this, there is a good amount of stuff I want to just hit on quick.
All right.
The book of Proverbs advises strongly against guaranteeing loans for someone else. But Ben Sira urges... yes, here, just a cough. But Ben Sira urges the opposite. Although in a responsible manner. His motive for this practice and for lending money to the poor, as well as for almsgiving, derives from religious duty, the commandment to be generous to the needy. In accord with the prohibition against charging Jews interest on loans, Oh, we remember that one fondly. It plays no role in this discussion of loans. And then in the later Talmudic tractate, I am not 100% sure what this tractate is, because it gives me like the just like the first letters of the words. But anyways, it said a usurer is comparable to a murderer, for the crimes of both are equally irredeemable. And then Ben Sira enters into the negotiation with open eyes, knowing that borrowers humbly kiss profusely and feign appreciation before acquiring a loan, but become obstinate and abusive when payment becomes due. I don't think I've ever dealt with anyone that's abusive when payment becomes due, but like I've, lent money before, and most people don't pay me back, but they don't get like abusive about it. They're just going to be like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
They never do.
So to lend to one's neighbor in his hour of need was considered an act of piety and the fulfillment of commandments. See Exodus 22:24 through 26, Leviticus 25:35 through 37, Deuteronomy, a whole bunch of points, and so on. Ben Sira says nothing about interest on the loan, for interest taking was explicitly forbidden in Exodus 22:24, Leviticus 25:36 to 37, and Deuteronomy 23:20 through 21, which disallowed interest on a loan made to a fellow Israelite, but permitted it to a loan made to a Gentile.
Yeah, but there's no mention of that Jewish law at all.
Right.
Here,
one is obliged to pay back a loan when it is due. Compare Luke 6:34 through 35. By repaying a loan on time, i.e. by keeping one's promise, literally word, and being honest, one will have no trouble obtaining a future loan, the point of verse 3b. Hence, prompt payment of a loan is not only a religious obligation, but also a sound practice in terms of one's self-interest.
That makes sense.
Yep. Many a person who asks for a loan adds to the burdens of those who help him. Till he gets it, he kisses the lender's hand and speaks softly of his creditor's wealth. But when payment is due, he puts it off, makes excuses, and asks for time. If the lender is able to recover barely half, he considers it a find. If not, he is cheated of his wealth and acquires an enemy at no extra charge.
Yeah, at no extra charge. That's a good
enemies.
pun there. Yeah. So
with curses and revilement, the borrower pays him back with abuse instead of honor, as you previously mentioned.
yeah, because if you don't translate it literally, it would be free, but no extra charge is the literal translation, and I like that a lot.
Many refuse to lend, not out of meanness, but from fear of being cheated to no purpose. With the poor, however, be generous. Keep him not waiting for your alms, because of the precept, help the needy. Do not send them away empty-handed in their want.
So on verse 8 there, the strong, nevertheless, like in the beginning of verse 8 there, I have howbeit. In verse 8, places the poor in a different category from the unappreciative, abusive borrower. Rather than hiding silver under a rock and letting it rust, cross-reference Isaiah and Matthew, one should, in Ben Sira's opinion, obey the commandments and put the money to good use.
All right. Spend your money for kindred or friend, and leave it not under a stone to rot. Dispose of your treasure as the Most High commands, for that will profit you more than gold. Store up almsgiving in your cash box, and it will save you from every evil. Better than a stout shield or a sturdy spear, it will fight for you against the foe. I guess the implication is that if you're constantly giving things to people, you'll have very few enemies. This is still in Judaism now. They have tzedakah boxes, like literally your cash box, which you give to the poor. I don't know if your family does.
No.
Yeah. Well, some Jews do it. So
some Christians even have almsgivings. I remember that from some activity on like a Saturday.
No, Chris, you're thinking of Thanksgiving.
Ooh. No, I mean like giving alms and
Yeah,
stuff.
I understand.
Jeez. No, they'd have some weird little like cardboard cutout box, which I remember I helped unfold and make a couple of them. And people would drop coins in them and then would give those to the poor. I have no idea. It was a dumb activity.
Well,
but I remember that.
Sounds
pretty
like the
vividly.
church should have just helped the poor.
Yeah.
There,
could've.
yeah.
a good person goes surety for his neighbor, and only the shameless would play him false. Forget not the kindness of your backer, for he offers his very life for you. The wicked turns the favor of a pledge into disaster, and the ungrateful schemer abandons his protector. Going surety has ruined many prosperous people and tossed them about like the surging sea, has exiled the prominent and sent them wandering through foreign lands. The sinner, through surety, comes to grief, and whoever undertakes too much falls into lawsuits. Go, surety, for your neighbor according to your means, but take care lest you fall thereby.
Yeah, help thy neighbor according to thy power, and take heed to thyself that thou fall not. So help them, but not to your own detriment.
Yeah.
So
now we're in another section.
yeah, but before we hop into that section, that one's going to be on
Frugality and the training of children.
yeah, the training of children will be a little bit later.
Apparently, it starts here
Does it?
according to this author.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. So although the next section I have here listed contentment, and then in the in the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary, I have on being independent. So I guess we'll see. Probably financially independent, I'm guessing. We'll find out. But on the section we just read on suretyship, Ben Sirach,
surety.
yeah,
It's your birthday.
I hate you. So Ben Sirach acknowledges that some generous people have been driven into penury and forced to travel to distant lands because of extending themselves too far out. They extended themselves too far out of compassion. So have compassion, but not too much compassion.
Well, that's been warned about before.
It has been.
Don't be too nice.
Yeah.
Don't be too righteous.
Don't be too wise. Oh, boy.
Yeah, don't be too wise.
Yep.
That's
Don't
another
be
one.
too wise. That's bad. Anyways.
That was Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Was it?
Yeah.
I loved it too
That
much.
was
That must be
Ecclesiastes.
it.
Different author. Same religion. Vaguely. Insofar as you can call a religion from different spans of time the same religion.
Yeah.
I mean, modern Judaism looks nothing like Judaism in the first temple.
No, not even little.
Not
Maybe a
even
little bit, but
a little.
yeah.
You could recognize
They're not-
iconography.
They're not sacrificing animals in these giant golden calf bowls.
Yeah.
Anyways, life's prime needs are water, bread, and clothing. A house, too, for decent privacy.
Oh, I should actually introduce this section. So this brief unit is best understood against the background of Greco-Roman culture, in which certain individuals stayed in the homes of wealthy people as unpaying guests. These parasitic persons were obliged to do menial chores to earn their food and lodging, and in the process they encountered considerable abuse. Ben Sirach urges people to be content with their status, whether prosperous or humble, and thus to keep their independence. The initial verse,
just let those leeches leech.
the initial verse mentions life's essentials: water, bread, clothing, a house for privacy. And apparently we can cross-reference 39:26, where a different list occurs. And then tell me once you get to 25.
Better a poor person's fare under the shelter of one's own roof than sumptuous banquets among strangers. Be it little or much, be content with what you have, so as not to hear reproach as a parasite. A miserable life it is to go from house to house, for as a guest you dare not to open your mouth. That was verse 24. Do you want me to read verse 25?
Yes.
The visitor has no thanks for filling the cups. Besides, you will hear these bitter words. And then there's bitter words that follow in the next verses.
The remark in verse 25 about playing the host is ironic, for abuse instead of gratitude greets the host's action, making him a virtual slave.
Come here, stranger. Set the table. Give me to eat the food you have in hand. Away, stranger, for one more worthy. For my relative's visit, I need the room.
Yeah, they're really portraying this guy as a douche.
Painful things to a sensitive person are rebuke as a parasite and insults from his creditors.
That was 28, right?
Yep, that was 28. That's the last verse of this chapter.
Yes, and yeah, the unexpected reference in verse 28 to a creditor links this unit to the preceding one.
Mm. So if you're enjoying the stream so far, give it a like, share it around. I see 8 people watching now. We should have at least 8 likes.
We do.
At least.
Yep.
Good. Here's some commentaries for you.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun one on we're on chapter 30 now. So it's going to be the last chapter of the day, and this is on the training of children, child rearing. And we have, we've come across a few verses, especially in Proverbs, and I guess also in Ben Sirach, about beating your kids.
Yep.
We're going to get some more of that.
Yeah, there were a lot of things about how to raise your daughter and then how to raise your son in even further back Deuteronomistic crap.
Yeah.
And even further or even closer to what we're doing. There were some Psalms that were definitely about, what you're supposed to do with your kids.
So
I don't know that there's anything dedicated until now though, right?
there was, a little bit, but, for sons, you got to beat them a lot so they're disciplined until they pretty much make you happy. And then for daughters, you give them absolutely no bodily autonomy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let me know when you get to the end of verse 4, and I'll comment on all the nonsense that you're about to read.
Great. Let's do this. Are you excited? I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
He that loveth his son will continue to lay stripes on him, that he may have joy on him at the last. He that chastiseth his son shall have profit of him, and in the midst of his acquaintance shall he have glory of him. So yeah, this is all just for the father.
Yes.
Yeah, steal your kid's glory.
No, so fucking hit your kids, because, apparently it's for them, right? For their own good. And, always criticize your kids, because then they're just going to bring you better things, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Shall have profit of him.
Yeah. So the entire section.
It'll glorify him too.
Yeah.
He's proud of his kid.
The entire section here presupposes that children, like animals, may be tamed. One might even say subdued.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for Eerdmans, this chapter covers 2 main topics. Verses 1 through 13 being concerned with rearing children. To whip a son often does not seem to us a good way to bring a son up, but we should remember that severe treatment of children was common throughout the ancient Near East.
Yeah.
Not least in Israel. For example, see Proverbs 13:24 and 23:13 through 14. Sirach's point is that as there was no afterlife, The only way a man's memory could survive death was in reputation and in leaving behind one like himself.
Yeah, and he always cared so much about reputation.
Yeah.
It's actually not good at all.
It's an obsession.
Yeah. He that teacheth his son will provoke his enemy to jealousy, and before friends will he exult over him. When his father dieth, it is as though he died not, for he hath left behind one like him. In his life he saw and rejoiced, and in his death he was not grieved. Against his enemies he hath left an avenger, and to his friends one that requiteth favor.
An avenger. He
that pampereth his son will bind up his wounds, and his heart is troubled at every cry. Okay, so if you care about your kid,
you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, you're gonna
they're gonna be wimps.
Yeah, they're gonna be wimps. You're gonna have to deal with it. Let's see what else here. Will bind up his wounds. So basically, this kid's taking their toll on you, I guess. An unbroken horse becometh stubborn, and a son left at large becometh headstrong. Oh no, they're independent.
Oh no. They're objects that you own like horses.
Yeah, and you have to mold them into you.
And if you're
not a clone of your dad and you didn't clone your son into you, you did a bad job.
So please tell me you have a different translation of verse 9 than I do.
Nope.
Because this is not looking good. Because remember, the photocopy is not great on this. So I don't know.
Tell me what you got.
Cocker thy child, and he will terrify thee.
Pamper.
You have pamper. Okay. That's way better.
Yeah.
Play with him, and he will grieve thee. Oh, my God.
Indulge him.
That's very different. Laugh not with him, lest he cause thee pain, and at the last thou gnash with thy teeth.
So, the essential point to remember in assessing the harsh discipline of children in ancient Israel is the belief that children provide continuity after their parents' deaths, both in defending the family's rights and in carrying the name forward into the next generation. Moreover, the severe treatment of children was common throughout the ancient Near East. A very old Sumerian school text, numerous Egyptian school texts from a somewhat later era, and the Aramaic sayings of Ahikar, perhaps 7th century BCE, provide copious evidence of this pedagogical practice over the millennia. Ben Sira offers a curious justification for avoiding familiarity with one's children. They will lose respect for you. The reference in verse 10 to a parent gnashing teeth reverses the proverb in Ezekiel 18:2 and Jeremiah 31:29, where children's teeth are set on edge because of their parents' deeds.
So, the reference there to the Sumerian schools, you know how they taught reading and writing in Sumerian schools?
They just beat you up until you know it?
No, they have you copy it hundreds and hundreds of times.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
We all had to do
that.
But
so many, I get that. But since these were on clay tablets and stuff, then they were, maybe many of them were reused. I don't know. But yeah, from the text that we have from Sumeria, so many of them come from these schools where kids were just learning how to read and write.
Yeah.
And they preserve fairly important texts. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's
Anyways,
cool. It's not going to happen anymore. We've gone beyond that point in history.
We have the internet now.
Yeah, it sucks.
Anyways, let him not have independence in his youth, and forgive not his mischievous acts.
So, the Hebrew, which is missing from 26:2a resumes again at 30:11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's the note here that it's Hebrew. As a python pounceth upon a wild beast, so chastise his loins while he is yet young. Bow down. There should be a reference in there. It's something about loins. Bow down his head in his youth, and beat his loins while he is yet small.
What
Lest
verse are you on?
12.
12.
And beat his loins while he is yet small, lest he become stubborn and rebel against thee. Wow. And there be born to the vexation of spirit from him. Control thy son, and make his yoke heavy, lest in his folly he lift himself up against thee. You know, I feel like if you're shittier to your kids, they're
hate you.
Yeah, exactly. They're just gonna fucking hate you,
Okay, so
and they're gonna rise up against you.
They said loins too many times for comfort.
Yeah, they did.
as a python pounces on a wild beast, so crush a son's loins when he is young. This harsh image probably suggests severe punishment for all offenses, particularly sexual ones. The reason for referring to chastising the boy's loins. But I don't know about that. That's
Beat their loins. Is it just so they don't care about sex? They go back to
No, it's supposed. I'm guessing what Ruben was saying was that there's metaphor for or a room.
it's different here. It's
you know, like
beat
if
his
they do.
son's ribs and smite his flanks.
Oh,
Yeah, you're not actually hitting his loins. You're hitting him because of his loins. Because he's
Okay.
sexual. That's, I guess,
horrible.
A father should do this not only because he loves his son, but also because it's in his self-interest to do so.
How?
Yeah, well, it was explained there that they're just gonna become they're gonna terrify you and make you sad. You know what? This just sounds like stuff they don't like.
Yeah, I don't think there's any justification.
No, it does not sound like it. Anyways, the next section here, this is on health.
Yeah.
Better is a poor man, healthy in body, than a rich man stricken in his flesh. I desire life in health rather than fine gold, and a cheerful spirit rather than pearls. There is no wealth above the wealth of health, and there is no good above that of a sound heart.
So, Codex Vaticanus has the titles On Health above verse 14 and On Goods above verse 16.
Weird. Okay.
The brief section states a truism that robust health is preferable to wealth accompanied by sickness, and momentarily dwells on the futility of giving delicacies to those who are unable to enjoy them, before concluding with encouragements to enjoy life. Ben Sirach considers death with its grim finality better than constant illness. The Greek translators shied away from his pessimism with regard to life beyond the grave. Accordingly, they omit the phrase eternal sleep in verse 17.
Well, we'll get to 17.
Yep.
Better is death than a life of vanity, and eternal rest than continual pain. Better is death than a wicked life, and descent to Sheol than continual pain. And the note here, apparently, so verse 17, the one I just read, occurs in, it just occurs in that double form.
Yep.
So it's just, that's interesting. Anyways. Good things poured out before a closed mouth are like an offering placed before an idol. Completely useless.
Are like food offerings placed before a tomb.
Oh, yeah. So
that is
really
a different implication, because that's like a filial piety kind of family ancestry worship.
Well, the whole point of the analogy would be, it is no one. They're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah, it's not going to accomplish anything.
Yeah. What doth it profit the idols of all nations, which neither eat nor smell? So is he that hath wealth, but cannot enjoy it. He seeth it with his eyes. Sorry, go ahead.
Was that your whole verse 19?
Yeah, I just read 19, but there is a note here. The text of verses 19 and 20 are mutilated.
Yeah, so finish 20.
Mutilated.
He seeth it with his eyes and groaneth as a eunuch that embraceth a maiden. Oh, what a bummer.
It says here, of what use is an offering to an idol that can neither eat nor smell? So it is with the one punished by the Lord, who groans at the good things his eyes behold.
Behold!
Behold.
That doesn't.
Yeah, an interpretive gloss in verse 19 shifts the thoughts to another familiar ritual, the giving of sacrifices to idols. Allusions to the latter type of worship occur in Deuteronomy 4:28, Psalm 115, 4 through 7, Isaiah 44, 9 through 11, 57, 6, Wisdom of Solomon 13, Balaam the Dragon 3:22, letter of Jeremiah 27, while Tobit 4:17 possibly refers to the placing of food and the pouring of drink offerings on memorial stones.
Well, let's continue. This is a section labeled Good Spirits. Give not thyself to sorrow, and be not worried with thine own counsel. Heart joy is life to a man, and happiness in a man putteth away anger. Beguile thy soul, and cheer thy heart, and put vexation far from thee, for sorrow hath killed many, and there is no profit in vexation. Envy and anger shorten days, and anxiety maketh gray before the time. Yeah, that one's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you there. Don't freak out too much. Chill out a little bit. So before the last verse here, 25, there is a note. So in Greek, a displacement takes place here. 30:25 through 33:16 come after 33:16 through 36:11. This displacement is found in all extant Greek manuscripts. On the other hand, Hebrew, Syriac, and Latin preserve the right order. So yeah, there's the equivalency here that verse 25 is equivalent to the Greek 33:13 B and C. The sleep of him that is of a cheerful heart is like dainties, and his food agreeth with him.
One who is bright and cheery at table benefits from his food. This is 27 in here. It says, though there are only 24 verses counted in the preceding Greek of this chapter,
Yes.
Ziegler numbers this last one 30:27. In deference to the Latin, which has chapter 30 in proper sequence and has been made to count 27 verses. This is the first verse of the several chapters that have undergone a major transposition in the Greek, in which it comes to be numbered 33:13b, with the following chapters 31 and 32 becoming 34 and 35.
So they just divide it way differently.
Further confusion occurs with chapter 33, 36, and in which the other half of the transposition begins. So
There should be a standard for these kinds of things. I'm just saying at this point, like
apparently
everyone in the world is kind of talking to each other. You can make a standard for these things.
it's all kinds of screwed up now.
Yeah. And you know what? We're going to learn more about how screwed up it is when we have David Skelton on the show.
Yeah,
to,
hopefully
yeah.
he can explain to us why they haven't just come to a consensus on some of these basic things, because that's...
Well, not even a consensus, because, you have to take the manuscripts for what they are, decide which one is the more likely reading. But, yeah, stuff like, why isn't there, at least for books like this, because, between the Hebrew verse division and the Christian one, it's not that big of a deal, right?
Mhm.
Like, whatever. In the Hebrew, a verse might be like one verse, might be listed as one verse after, right?
Yeah.
So
But here it's like
it's
chapter
yeah.
X becomes chapter X plus 3. And why?
I guess we'll find out.
And
Hopefully.
like there's so much too, because you got to remember that at least with the Bible, the numbering of verses was not initially in there.
Yeah.
So when they're numbering these verses, they could just renumber the verses to make it make more sense.
Right.
But instead, they choose
to keep the numbers and switch them around.
Yeah.
So either way, I mean, that's really the end of the show for today. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Drop a like, subscribe, share it around, all that classic good YouTube stuff that people always ask you to do. Let's see what else we got going on. We got a Patreon.
Yeah, for $1 a month, you can get all of our video scripts. I'm working on a video script right now.
Yeah.
You'll be able to get it if you have the Patreon.
Yeah, and you can, also have the possibility of being in a t-shirt giveaway.
At a higher
$10 a month. Every month you get entered into a t-shirt giveaway.
For $5 a month, you can get Lawrence's
just
book.
that for now, the one book. But once we publish more books, you'll get more books.
Yep.
Let's see what else. What else we got going on? There's all you could be on this show. You can be on another show. The whole thing's on there on Patreon. Link is in the description. We got
$50 a month to be on this show.
We got a wish list as well.
Yep, a whole bunch of books on there if you want to get more books for us to read on this stream so that we have more context and more information to disseminate to all of you.
And not just this stream. We will read the books and then we will produce video content and use the books as sources. You are investing in your own entertainment and your own knowledge.
Indeed. So,
Invest.
Teespring.
Yeah, we got a Teespring too.
Donation drive. Once it hits 666, we're getting a Scientology e-meter. We're going to see who's the most clear. Least Thetans. How far are we along on that?
Not very.
We're like $50
Something
maybe.
like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Either way, Facebook and Twitter, free to follow us on those. Links are in the description, of course. And I think that's all the shilling we got to do.
Yep, that's everything.
That's all the shilling. So until next time,
we will see you on Sunday.